Dimebag has been dead for 16 years and they just can't make the same money they used to, and Rita should take Dimebag's endorsement and legacy and go somewhere else. This is allegedly what Evan Rubinson, the current CEO of Dean Guitars, recently said to Rita Haney. What's up guys, I'm Scott Bynum. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're doing well. In today's video, I want to talk a bit about some of the recent news surrounding Dimebag Darrell and his endorsement with Dean Guitars. Recently on Dimebag Darrell's Instagram account and on dimebagdarrell.com, Rita had shared some news about the ending endorsement between Dimebag Darrell and Dean Guitars, along with a copy of the official complaint that she has filed against Dean. And what I wanted to do today was go through the contents of that complaint and share some of the key things that I kind of picked out of that with you all today in case, you didn't have a chance to read it. One thing I want to mention, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not sort of representing anything on either side of this. I'm simply just picking out what was published within this complaint. All right, so who are the parties involved in this? Well, the plaintiff is the In Dime We Trust Revocable Living Trust, which is managed by, or the trustee of that is Rita Haney, and the defendant is Armadillo Distribution Enterprises, Dean Guitars, and Concordia Investment Partners. And essentially what this is an official complaint and a request or a demand for a jury trial. And within this complaint, there are the following claims, and I'll read them out: allegations of unfair competition, false association, false endorsement, false designation of origin, and false advertising. So let me just run through a bit of the backstory around the agreement that was in place between Dimebag and Dean Guitars. In mid-November 2004, just about a month before Dimebag was untimely killed on stage, he entered into an endorsement agreement with Dean Guitars, which included a signature line of Dimebag Darrell guitars. That agreement was then amended on October 9th, 2008 to continue the signature line of guitars, but also to include a clothing line. Essentially within this agreement, it was stated that Dimebag was to be paid a certain amount of royalty based on every piece of merchandise sold by Dean with his endorsement, along with a lump sum of money that was to be paid per publication or magazine cover that Dimebag was on that showed him holding a Dean guitar with the headstock and the logo of Dean prominently displayed. In addition to that, Dimebag was to be provided with a set number of guitars, both import and domestically made, so USA made guitars, for each line of the endorsed guitar series. What's important to note that this agreement apparently did not include giving ownership to Dean over some of the trade names and designs that Dimebag had created, including the Stealth and the Razorback. And that apparently Dean was to cease production and sales of the Stealth and Razorback models once the agreement was terminated. Fast forward to April 2014, this agreement was reinstated, renewed, whatever you want to call it, and this agreement again only stated that there would be a signature line of guitars and not like other types of equipment. And apparently the royalties paid on the merchandise sold was reduced, and the lump sum payments for Dimebag appearing on the cover of various publications was limited to Guitar World, Guitar Player, and Revolver magazine. Lastly, it was stated that Dean was still to provide the Dimebag Darrell estate with a set number of guitars, both import and domestically produced, of each line that was created. Now, this agreement naturally terminated on April 30th, 2020, and it had sort of a cooling off or a sell-off period of 6 months where Dean was allowed to sell off their remaining inventory, which would have taken them to October 30th, 2020. While Dean Guitars did apparently express interest in continuing the endorsement deal with the Dimebag Darrell estate, apparently Rita and Dean could not come to an agreement. And I think it's worth mentioning the power and the legacy and reach of the Dimebag Darrell name and endorsement on the business of Dean Guitars, because apparently within the first 2 years of the endorsement deal being signed, Dean doubled in size, and in the first year alone, they sold something like $6 million worth of Dimebag Darrell guitars. All right, so let's pause there for a second and talk briefly about the control of the Dimebag estate and the In Dime We Trust RLT. It's been alleged that for a number of years, the endorsement deal between the Dimebag estate and Dean Guitars was not managed by Rita, but instead it was managed by Vinnie Paul, Dimebag's brother, along with Dimebag's father. The allegations set forth that Elliot Rubinson, who was the CEO of Dean Guitars at that time, manipulated Vinnie Paul into not paying the adequate royalties and had watered down the original endorsement agreement. After Vinnie Paul unfortunately passed away in 2018, the Abbott family eventually made the decision to give back control of the Dimebag Estate to Rita in June 2020. It was at this point that Rita came to understand how the endorsement agreement was being treated, and in terms of her allegations, she felt that certain obligations of Dean were not being met, and that Dean was trying to convert some of Dimebag Darrell assets to their own. So let's talk a little bit about the relationship between Rita and Evan Rubinson, who is now the current CEO of Dean Guitars. Rita claims that she had difficulties working with Evan Rubinson, who inherited Dean Guitars from his father, the late Elliot Rubinson, who died in 2017. She claims that Evan was disrespectful to Dimebag's legacy and the importance of Dimebag on the success of Dean Guitars up to that point. In a nutshell, Evan Rubinson told Rita to take the Dimebag endorsement, go somewhere else, because they had no intention of righting the wrongs that she was alleging. Rita wrote Dean Guitars and Evan Rubinson a letter reminding them of the contractual end date along with that 6-month sell-off period and tried to reach an amicable agreement, to which Evan Rubinson responded, "Your complaints are baseless. Please serve me with an official lawsuit." All right, so let's talk a bit about the allegations against Dean Guitars. The claims within the complaint state that Dean Guitars continued to sell and produce Dimebag Darrell signature models, including the Stealth and the Razorback, even after the endorsement agreement ended, along with the end of that 6-month sell-off period. In addition, they were also selling other types of gear not covered by the agreement, including the Dime Time pickups, Dimebag Darrell straps, and even like the little miniature Dimebag Darrell guitars. Additionally, it was also claimed that the lump sum payments that were supposed to be made for the publications that Dimebag Darrell appeared on the cover of were never made. And lastly, it was also claimed that Dean Guitars never provided the Dimebag Darrell estate with models of each of the import and domestically produced line of guitars. But the complaint goes even deeper. It's alleged that Dean Guitars filed unauthorized trademark registrations for the Razorback name and Razorback guitar design. Additionally, when Dean and Dimebag entered into the original endorsement agreement, it was stated that the shape of the Dime 3, the Washburn Dime 3 that was made popular by Dimebag when he was with Washburn, was to be jointly owned by Dimebag and Dean. And so this is like the ML shape, but it's slightly offset. So anybody that has played or owned a Washburn Dime 3 compared to like a Dean ML, you will know they're slightly different. So while this design was supposed to be shared jointly between Dimebag and Dean, apparently Dean, without the Dimebag estate knowing, went to file a trademark registration for that shape for themselves, which did not include the Dimebag Darrell estate having any ownership over it. Essentially, Dean Guitars is alleged to have fraudulently converted Dimebag assets to their own. What's even more interesting within the complaint is that it says that the estate of Dimebag is unclear as to how Dean acquired the right to use the artwork of the Dean from Hell. The original agreement states nothing about the use of the Dean from Hell design and artwork on this guitar next to me. Additionally, while Dean has been producing Dime Time branded pickups along with Dimebag branded guitar straps, nothing in the original agreement or any of the agreements apparently states that they're allowed to do so. And finally, it's been claimed that Dean never compensated the Dimebag estate for the Dean from Hell design, the Razorback name or design, and the Stealth name or design. So despite the termination of this agreement, this complaint alleges that Dean continues to produce and sell merchandise that uses Dimebag's endorsement, his signature, his name, his photo, his designs, while they don't have an agreement in place. All right, so what are my 2 cents? Well, I find the entire situation kind of disappointing and unfortunate, and if the allegations set forth in the complaints are true, it's extremely poor business decision-making on the part of Evan Rubinson and Dean Guitars. Dimebag's legacy and influence and relevance, in my opinion, is actually growing. It's stronger than ever. And you know, Dean Guitars, while they do have a roster of other artists that they endorse, none, I would argue, are as big or influential as Dimebag Darrell. And to lose the Dimebag Darrell endorsement, especially in the way that is being alleged in this complaint publicly, is extremely, I think, bad for business. I'd be willing to bet most people that are fans of Dean Guitars are also fans of Dimebag, or maybe only fans of the Dimebag Darrell guitars. my opinion is he's really carried that company even while he's been gone. Just reading the comments that are already floating around within online forums, you can see people are pissed off. You know, Dimebag and Dean fans are basically saying like, fuck you, Dean, if this is really true, we're done, like we're out. And so if they're going to lose a customer base that was solely fans of Dimebag and Dimebag guitars, and that's no longer going to happen, I can't imagine this is going to bode well for the Dean brand in the long term. You know, personally, I'm a huge fan of Dimebag and Dimebag guitars, as all of you probably know. You know, I love all of the Washburn guitars, and I do love a lot of the Dean guitars. Not all of them, but I do love some of them. And you know, to be totally honest, I think in recent years, there've been a lot of Dean Dimebag models that I was kind of like, I don't really know. They just seem to be producing a lot of different models and color schemes, and it just felt like a lot. But you know, I said, you know, it doesn't really matter what I think, because if people are buying these things, if the Dimebag name and legacy continues to live on and people are getting excited about it, they're playing guitar, you know, they're posting pictures and videos of these guitars, you know, I thought that was great. You know, if the Dimebag estate approves of this and they support this and they're getting compensated fairly for it, then who am I to judge? You know, whatever, you know, more the merrier. Keep it going. But based on this complaint, it appears that that wasn't the case. It appears that not only were they not fulfilling their financial obligations to the Dimebag estate, alleged within this complaint, that the contract had actually terminated and they shouldn't be producing these guitars and various bits of merchandise any longer. And if all of this is true and all of these allegations are true, and remember, this is not my opinion, I'm trying to share with you what was laid out in the post that was shared by Rita on Dimebag's Instagram account and on the dimebagdarrell.com website, which I'll link down in the description below. If all of these allegations are in fact true, not cool, Dean. Very not cool. You know, I'm interested to see what comes of the Dimebag Legacy and Endorsement next. You know, what's the next signature line of Dimebag guitars? You know, if it's not Dean and it's not Washburn, I don't really know what makes sense, because those are the two companies that he's been associated with while he was alive. And so if they were being produced by some other brand that he wasn't associated with, I don't know how that would go over with the fan base, and if people would find that a little bit strange. I don't know, maybe they create like a Dimebag Darrell brand, like it's not associated with like a pre-existing brand. I don't know. Would love to hear what you guys think about the future of the endorsement of Dimebag Darrell's signature guitars. Meet me down in the comments below. We'll love to hear what everybody thinks. I know there's gonna be a lot of opinions on this, on one side or the other. Let's meet down in the comments and let's chat about it. All right, everybody, thanks so much for watching the video. Really appreciate your time, and remember, stay safe and stay heavy. Dimebag's legacy lives on, stronger than all. Get your pull.